Check, check, check. Check your food.
Someone's in a good mood.
No, I'm not in a good mood. My dog
shit.
My dog crapped all over my house while I was trying to chase down Hulk Hogan out in Boondock Land, and I got back like 4 hours later, and he had gotten into my trash and just and I just left it. I just went to sleep, and it was worse this morning. So
you know what I was just thinking this morning, Harry? I was like, I wonder how Harry housebroke that dog so fast. And I was like, wait a minute, he didn't train it. The dog just probably shits and pees everywhere.
No, it does. I have two Swiffers, one in each room, and I have a mop sitting in a bucket of Pine Sol, always on the ready. So I mop every day. And then I find out, guess what? Guess the hardest breed to potty train? Basset Hounds.
Yeah.
I wish somebody told me that before I got one.
Their bladders don't work, basically.
No, he just dribble. And I just had a hip replacement, and my doctor, I saw him yesterday, he's like, wow, you're really coming along a lot faster than I thought for someone your age. I was like, yeah, because I chase a puppy around all day. So, yeah, I don't need PT. I don't need physical therapy.
I got puppy
therapy. Yeah, I saw that before we have our guest on. I saw that slide you sent me from Draft Lines. That's interesting. So Mick Ultra is now in draft outselling Bud Light, which that's surprising to me.
It's share of lines, so I don't know if the dollar sales are more, but the actual share of the actual lines, it passed it in November, which is, if you look at the chart, which we'll have in the issue, probably by the time people hear this, it's like the inverse lines for Mick Ultra and Bud Light since early 2023. And gee, I wonder how that happened.
Yeah.
But yeah. Today, I'd like to welcome to BeerNet Radio Don Deubler, founder and CEO of Atomic Brands, and Mark Treichel, CCO of Atomic Brands. Now, for those who aren't familiar with Atomic Brands, are you even in the industry, bro? Their Monaco cocktail is the number 3 spirits-based RTD off-premise scans, and up about 9% with strong velocities, but not as much distribution as the 1 and 2, which of course means there's lots of run room left. Now, you guys have flown a little bit under the radar, so I'm super excited to have you guys here today. So thanks for being on.
Yeah, well, thank you. We're big fans of yours. Read it first thing in the morning every morning, so we're excited to be a part of it.
On toilets, usually.
Toilets everywhere.
No comment. Yeah.
Best way to start the day.
Yeah.
But let's start there. I mean, the idea that you guys have maybe flown a little bit under the radar versus some of your competitors, has that been a purposeful thing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've just stayed focused, kind of from the get-go on the consumer experience, the products. As we exchanged information back and forth beforehand. I didn't come from this industry, so I didn't exactly know where to, go for like a PR standpoint and so forth. But we just, it was not about managing the trade. It was more about proving that we had something that worked, and we just kept working really hard at it, year after year. And, before we knew it, we started to grow, in the second half of like the 2010s really fast. And there was never really a point where we said, oh, hey, we need to go tell our story. And so we, this is kind of one of the first times we're really doing that.
Awesome. Well, let's go back because, to your point, I think the company has been around for almost 20 years. I did some research and I saw that you actually started.
Hard to believe.
I know. Yeah, you're an OG. You don't look it, but you're an OG. But you were in a different, CPG space before Atomic Brands, and you had a mobile company for kids. And so tell me about the origin story. How did you move from that to the BevAlc world?
Well, I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my whole life. Always had ideas, probably get it from my grandfather. And the idea for Monaco, the idea for a spirits-based cocktail for me, it really started in my college years. I went to Loyola University of Chicago. I was never a big beer guy. Hanging out with my friends, it was mostly nightclubs and cocktails. And I just always wondered why they didn't at that time have some sort of cocktail in a bottle. And then you saw like the first wave of the flavored malt came out. kind of Mike's Hard Lemonade. Then you learn that those are actually flavored beer or malt liquor. They're not real spirits. And yeah, I had two ideas I was really going to pursue. It was either this, sort of cocktail in a bottle or cocktail in a can, or a cell phone for kids. I chose the latter. That was a grueling experience, kind of traditional tech, VC backed business. And, kind of during that whole process, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I loved consumer creativity, consumer products. And as that business was winding down, I, said, look, I think I could do something with this. I went back to the original idea, kind of cocktail in a can. I'd been traveling a lot for that business, and it would involve a lot of international travel to visit wireless carriers. And we'd go out, and it didn't matter whether I was in Barcelona, Buenos Aires, or Berlin. You look down the bar at like 3:00 in the morning, and you could just see the bars lined with like Red Bull vodka at that time, 2004, 2005. And I said, I can't believe nobody takes this thing and puts it in a can. This is like, I grew up on Coca-Cola. This is like Coca-Cola for the next generation. And then that's where the light bulbs really kind of went off and crystallized. And I started looking into what does it take to make a drink? If I could figure out how to make cell phones in China and then ship them all over the world, drink seems a little easier. And so I had a good contact at Bell Flavors and Fragrances. And then they referred me to a beverage developer and just kind of started there. Launched the first brand we launched. So the company started in 2006. The idea was to do a caffeinated alcohol beverage, which then became problematic. So we launched kind of this premium product in a aluminum bottle in 2008 in the Chicago market and a handful of other markets. We had no idea really what was going on. At that time, as far as the industry, people would ask us questions like, what's your route to market? And, for me, I was like, I drive my car some days, other days there's stores nearby. I can walk to them. So it's been an education. But it was, I think, coming into this, into this specific industry, Bev Alc, without the experience, there was a little bit of bliss, and you could just look at the problems and analyze them with common sense, sort of without the baggage. So really early on, it became, okay, we need to control our own destiny. We need these distributors. The distributors are great, but they're overloaded with brands. So we need to really be in control of our own destiny. We need to be out in the market. We need to be working with those reps. We need to be in those stores. We need to be talking to consumers. And that's, going back to your first question, we've spent so many years doing that. We've never really been talking to trade publications and so forth. But
it just occurred to me that a lot of the most successful new to world products are from people that didn't come up within the industry. And that's probably why, because you kind of learn in the industry what you can't do, right? I mean, that's when you grow up in, because, to me, who's grew up in the industry, at the time, I remember thinking, you can't have a spirit-based RTD because the taxes are too high. So, why would you even try? I mean, did that ever, when did you learn that the taxes would be double as a malt-based?
In the beginning, it was pretty apparent. You start looking at the cost of goods and the taxation. And so in that first generation of product, the company was betting on that people would pay the premium for the caffeine. And so we bet on the fact that people are going to pay the premium for the caffeine and not just the spirit. Then when the whole caffeinated alcohol thing happened with, Fusion and Four Loko, that was almost a death blow to our company. We had inventory and all this stuff. And we tried other products and, they didn't work. We were trying some, higher alcohol malt, non-caffeinated, and we were down to our last bit of money. I mean, we had less than $100,000 in the bank. It was enough money to make one truck of one thing. And, we were getting calls. The company was getting calls for sort of the original product. And they said, just take the caffeine out. Just take the caffeine out. People will drink it. People will drink it. So we took the caffeine out. We kept the formulas the same. We pivoted into a 12-ounce sleek, which at that time, nobody was really using. and changed the name to Monaco. And just kind of never looked back. Launched the brand in 2012. Didn't have enough money to really do anything else except stay focused on a tight group of stores and markets, and just built it kind of can by can, pod by pod, retailer by retailer, and then started expanding.
What was it called before Monaco?
It was called AM.
AM. Okay.
Like stay up till the AM, because it had the caffeine in it. And we had this design in this aluminum bottle. It had this rooster on the shield. That's kind of where the rooster had originally come from, and people really liked that, so we decided to keep that with Monaco.
I gotta say,
it became our spirit animal. Like
yeah,
small little company up against these people. Small can packs a big punch.
Well, it's funny you say aluminum bottle. I remember being in, I think it was Germany at that time, around 2005, and there were some products there that came in an aluminum bottle over in bars, and I thought, wow, this is unique. I wonder if this would work in the U.S. But you guys were maybe before your time or after time. I don't know.
We were so far before our time, and we started. Our whole idea in the beginning was, let's sell these things in nightclubs and bars. So we started in bars, and we're like, who's these what is an off-premise team? We got people from the off-premise team calling us, and we learned it was working in stores, in some of the convenience stores in downtown Chicago. And, we just started working the stores and saw that was an easier path. There was much less friction to convincing the consumer to try the product, to buy the product. And, that's how we started cutting our teeth, was convincing people to spend anywhere from $4.99 to $6.99 on these aluminum bottle drinks in the city of Chicago. So it's come a long way from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and now you're the number 3 spirits-based RTD cocktail, right? In a quite crowded space. So what's the playbook from here, right? I mean, are there markets where it's closer to number 2, number 1? What can you share about that?
Yeah, I mean, in our, I'll let Mark take it off from here, but we're really in the third iteration. I call it Atomic Brands 3.0. 1.0, we just talked a lot about that. Let's make something that sells. 2.0 was about starting to scale retail. And then now as we moved into 3.0, it's been focusing a lot more on the trade, national accounts, operations, costs. I started meeting Mark sort of during that transition. And when he and I met, we really hit it off, and I knew we were going to work together.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at our growth journey, one thing the team's done remarkably well for the last 12 plus years on Monaco is kept the main thing. And they really dug in and developed the brand. And part of that started geographically. We have a really strong business in kind of the Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Ohio, Michigan, kind of Great Lakes pockets. And even if you unpack that and scratch in a little deeper, is we're predominantly a singles brand, and we're predominantly an independent brand. And those are all areas of strength. But when you ask the question, what's next, we just kind of take a step back and say, look, we've developed a lot of other areas. We have a great business in markets like Idaho and Arkansas and others that you wouldn't expect, but we don't really sell Monaco where about 50% of the US population lives. We're in the bigger markets like Florida, Texas, and some others, but we've made some changes as of late to really start unlocking that. So yeah, we're in every market basically but a state, but in a lot of ways, we're really building our portfolio and building a route to market in a lot of other markets for the long haul.
Right. And you guys just moved from traditional wine and spirits wholesalers this summer to in Indiana and Illinois, to some beer houses, including Reyes, who I think you're with in California. Can we expect you guys to continue that in other geographies?
I think there's a couple of pieces of that. One is, to Don's point, we always start with the consumer in mind. And our view is where can we create the least friction to get our products to them? And, we had reached some velocity and points where we thought in those states that are very well developed that, those were really important markets to have the right route to market long term, and, to work around some out of stocks and things we were having. And we made those moves. And there's been others we've made. We've made some adjustments in Florida, Texas, Colorado, a couple others already to some partners in that are more traditional beer wholesalers. So yeah, we feel like we're great partners to them. Our business is incremental. And, most importantly, we're kind of in the fast moving goods, impulse goods, and they tend to do a really nice job for us in those.
We had a wave, it was before COVID, where some of our early wholesalers, it became about serviceability, the ability to really service the brand. I mean, it's a spirit-based product, but it looks like a beer. It sells like a beer. And when it really starts to get going, you got to be able to service it like a beer, or to Mark's point earlier, you're going to have out of stock issues and so forth. So as we looked at that and, some of our key markets, what was standing in the way of some of the growth, and, it just kind of became the obvious choice for, us to go do.
Right. And as you're, getting into this 2, 3.0 and you're making sure you have the right service and the right network, what about the on-premise? Because I know you had said before that was a big part of the whole history, but also obviously it's where you build brands, right? So how do you guys look at the on-premise for it?
We had such a hard time with the very first product that we sort of stayed away from it, out of the gate. Sure, we see the adoption of the seltzer products, which to us, to me personally, I kind of look at like a light beer 2.0. It fits there with its 5%. It's definitely somewhere where we can grow. It just hasn't been a major focus of ours. There's just so much wood to chop still in the off premise for us as we expand across some of these states, where we stayed so hyper focused regionally that as we moved into some of these states, sometimes we were the first or second one again. And now, obviously it's gotten, to your point, to be a very crowded market. So it's a different growth journey when you're later, going into these markets.
Yeah. I think one build on that is, one thing that was maybe not the foundation, but a big accelerant to Monaco was how engaged it was in the live music scene. So a lot of its growth, when consumers really started to maybe go from being aware of it to falling in love with it, was around some music festivals in Chicago, especially in the electronic music scene. And so when we talk off or on premise, we're often kind of talking about the third premise and starting to say live music venues, higher energy venues, later night bars. We're probably not a, crack a Monaco and have an 11 a.m. Early start over a brunch, but hey, 11, 12, 1 in the morning live music venue. We think the speed to service on our items and the quality and consistently and control, like that's kind of our pathway in for the on-premise.
Yeah.
That makes sense, because in venues like that, like you say, live music, speed of service is really what they're after. When you're having to serve so many people at once, a canned product makes sense. But in a regular bar, they just make so much margin on mixed drinks. It's hard to get a canned product in there to make it, for them to push it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just a different animal when you're dealing with, 20,000 to 50,000 people a day that are wanting the variety of something, and you got to bring it all in. It very quickly proved that it's a great alternative to they'll have the mixed drinks there, but the bar staff and the consumers love how fast and efficient it is, because the consumer's trying to maximize their time. They've got a finite amount of time to create these memories at this thing, and they don't want to be standing in line forever waiting.
Yeah.
No, and you're creating forgotten memories. I mean, that's I love that. And so, it seems like you guys, like you said, have a lot of run room just in distribution, right? In the off premise and in geography. And so other than like pushing for more distribution, how do you do overall marketing? In other words, what kind of marketing do you do that's not just distribution based?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned part of this just a minute ago is obviously from a cultural perspective, a lot of the DNA of the brand is rooted in live music. But to your question on expanding distribution is, we felt this world's competitive and candidly with major suppliers in it now, it's even, getting it more competitive. So we've invested in a major way. We're marquee partners with the UFC. It is a high impact, high energy cultural moment. And that was one, when you talk about high impact, there's probably not a sport out there like it that, packs more of a punch, a little bit like Monaco. So we're on the mat in every single fight and have a large partnership with them. And, we've still kept the connectivity to music, and, we bring the brand to life at retail. But, I think going back to, which is kind of a common theme for us, which is thinking about the consumer, is we just know this brand has to live in high energy cultural moments. And obviously music and the UFC platform are two that probably embody that more than anything else you could get into.
So you've picked that niche, high energy occasions, and because it seems like brand awareness has a lot of run room too, right? I mean, being on the mat at UFC just has to be incredible for your awareness numbers, I would think.
Yeah, it's, we rely, as a smaller company, we rely on a lot of the anecdotes, but, Don can tell you as well, is it's just been step change in terms of the amount of consumers off the street. You say what you're doing, they're like, I've seen that thing on the mat. I'm aware of that. And you just have to rely on that a little bit to say it's clearly showing up on people's radar in a much more prominent way.
I just keep thinking of that rooster and like you guys sending a giant rooster into bars or concerts or the UFC. I just think about it, guys. We're talking about marketing here. Just my 2 cents.
And Jen, I'm going to put you in charge of our marketing because you are just on fire.
Yeah.
I've been texting Harry random thoughts about lots of things. So yes, it's my manic phase, I guess. Well, moving on,
there's
just
no way
a little
to turn
bit.
it off.
Yeah, exactly. You guys know.
Yeah.
We're talking about this brand and how it differs from some of your competitors. So are you guys going to keep the silver bullet, right? You've got this one main brand where your competitors keep expanding their portfolios. Are you guys going to keep it that way? Or are you looking at, organic expansion or M&A, anything like that?
No, for sure. I mean, we call the company Atomic Brands. We don't call the company
Right.
Monaco, for a reason. The idea all along was to build a house of brands kind of around Monaco once we had the distribution set up. One thing, when you get into these things, they wind up taking a little bit longer than you think. I didn't think it was going to take 20 years to kind of get to here. But no, we've definitely been working on other brands and launching other things and, keeping them very focused. And we like to play in that, in that sort of convenience, impulse, fun and flavorful space. One of the things everybody likes to talk about is, Mark and I talk about these things a lot with the team, but everybody loves to talk about the things that are like the new hot trends, right? Mm-hmm. We like to look at stuff and think about what's not going to change. What have we seen over the last 20 years? What have I seen over the last 20, 30 years of, being an adult here? That's just not going to change. And things like flavor, it's not changing. That's not changing. Things like convenience, that's not changing. Everyday value, that's not changing. And it doesn't have to be price, just value for what it is that you're getting. So as we look at our, what we're good at, we've been really successful at that with Monaco. And what other categories are there that we can, step into?
What is your price point at retail? What are you shooting for, let's say?
It's pretty much been from the beginning, $2.99 is like the main price. And then we have a 2 for price, a 2 for $5. $2.99, 2 for $5, 2 shots in every can.
That's a value.
Yeah. It's great value.
I mean, especially now, after all this inflation, I mean, if you can hold it there, that is a great value.
Yeah. Are you looking at larger cans at all or any sort of format change or?
We've looked at it, but, obviously with standards of fill with a spirits product, you need a resealable can. And, we're not sure how well those will do long term. I mean, one of the things that I learned early on and, the team has learned is, especially at these music festivals, you'd think people want to just walk up and buy the 16 ounce or the 24 ounce beer. And what I've just heard thousands and thousands of times over the years is I'd rather get the 12 ounce size because it's going to stay cold and then I can go get another. If I get the big one, it's going to be warm and I can sort of portion control, drinking this and have a great experience with it as opposed to really trying to down the last half or third of it because it's gotten too warm.
Right. That's a great insight. And resealable cans are not cool. I mean, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why I'm the arbiter of what's cool or not. I'm a 55-year-old, but just to me, like walking around with a big old, stay cool, San Diego.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the average consumer maybe isn't holding on to a Monaco for too long. So there's a little bit of less is more and, kind of enjoying it a little quicker than the average sessionable drink. So it works.
Makes sense. What are your top flavors? I should know this, but I don't.
Yeah, we got a lot of good winners, but those that have kind of really stood the test of time are, Citrus Rush, which is obviously, energy drink and inspired flavors, and Lime Crush and Blue Crush and watermelon and black raspberry. Those tend to be the ones that, stand the test of time and have done really, really well.
Yeah, and then
the original two were the Citrus Rush and the black raspberry.
Mm-hmm. And then do you keep, you do LTOs or new flavors every year, or how do you guys treat innovation?
For a while, we were just doing new flavors. We were adding new flavors and have continued to do that. This last year with our partnership with the UFC, we launched a UFC branded knockout punch.
How's that
Jen,
selling?
Real quick, I know what an LTO is, of course, but maybe for some of our listeners who don't.
Everybody knows what an LTO is.
Okay, well, just go ahead, just for our dumber listeners.
It's a limited time offer.
Okay, I knew that. I knew that.
Or seasonal, if you will. I guess I should have said sort of seasonal. But how's the UFC punch selling?
It's done really well out of the gates. One is our C-store shoppers that, there's a lot of overlap with the fight fan, have really embraced it and liked it. And it's been a good driver of increased distribution, and the flavor's right. It's nice. I guess it's been an LTO, but it'll probably stick around here for a bit. So it's been a good offering.
It's a smart way to innovate because, there's only so many flavors to go around, right? If you can capture a movement, something cool, it's a little bit stickier sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So
look, it's been good. And we think about innovation in different ways. We've, explored and are testing some things that are some alternative bases as well in some markets. So we think about flavor innovation, we think about pack and format innovation, and we think about, hey, can we deliver the Monaco experience to consumers in different ways? And so, we're testing and learning on that as well.
Yeah. So how does your approach, do you think, differ from competitors like Gallo, Sazerac, where, Mark, I think you worked there, maybe even AB? What differentiates your playbook?
I mean, I think there's a few things. One is, I think it goes back to focus to a certain degree. We are probably not your partner when it comes to creating a $1,000 tequila. That's not what we're great at, but we know fun, flavor, convenience, and impulse extremely well. And so we really focus in that area and think we bring, added value to the category in that space. And they obviously have some brands that play in that space, but I think our focus in that, is a differentiator for us and something that the trade has really been receptive to and seeing, that, so. And look, we have a lot of admiration for those businesses. Obviously, they built incredible businesses, so they have a lot of areas of strength. But I just think we're all learning from each other as well. Don and team were an innovator in this category, and I think maybe some of them are looking to say, all right, how do we mimic and mirror some of that? So, but I think our focus and our size really helps us a lot.
And patience. I have to think that some of the companies would have maybe cut bait on something like Monaco a lot earlier than we did. Candidly, didn't really have a choice. It was make it work or go get a job. So when you have that kind of pressure to focus and make something work, you go through the repetitions really fast to try and remove the friction, for the consumer, for the store owner, for the distributor. And one element of it that we discovered is definitely time. Enough time in the market, the consumer seeing the product takes a lot of time to get it out there. And so time was the big thing that we had on our side, where I'm not sure other people would have embraced that time and allowed people the permission to work on something and invest that level of time.
That's a great point. People cut bait on brands, I think, way too soon. One thing that I'm interested in is there's differences between states with different laws. Like in Texas, you can only sell spirit-based in package stores and liquor stores, whereas like in California, you can sell it in grocery stores. Does that affect which is better for you guys, I guess?
Ultimately, we
Oh,
want to get to where we can sell it kind of everywhere, right? So stores, states, every one of these states is like a different country practically with their laws and so forth. But obviously the ones that have broader distribution are, are better for us to be able to enter that C-store channel.
Right. Yeah. I've heard it said, I don't know if this is true, but somebody told me that like High Noon, they like Texas because they can go to the package stores and that's the brand. Like that when you go walk into that they're displayed up front, whereas they can't get that kind of stroke because AB owns C stores in a lot of other states. But yeah, I would say having it in more places is definitely better.
Yeah, I mean, like we keep going back to is we want to meet the customer or the consumer where they're at. We're an impulse item, and so we're obviously big proponents of broader availability because look, we're an impulse item and we're maybe the thing they're throwing in their cart on top of something else. We're not a mission they're going to a store for more often than not. So there's obviously elements of control and distribution that help with smaller store counts, but mass availability is where our brand really thrives.
And your packaging is so distinct. I think there's not a lot. It's very different from other brands, and so when you see it, and you're like, "Oh, what what is this?" You tend to gravitate toward it. So, well done on that.
Yeah,
packaging.
Yeah, we did.
Who'd have thought?
We did want it to be different. That's for sure. In the beginning, it was way too different when it came in an aluminum bottle with an obscure name. Now it's a little bit more acceptable. It's got the right level of differentiating, and maybe it's a little foreign. It's a little foreign feeling. We wanted it to be foreign feeling for people. We learned early on, with our first brand, our first few brands, that was appealing. The discovery aspect of it was appealing.
This may be a stupid question, but why did you name it Monaco?
That is not a stupid question. That is a great question.
Thank
There
you,
are no
Don.
stupid questions. Our first product was called AM, and it was just such a disaster. People would call the thing AM PM all the time because it was like a white and black bottle. And when we were talking about, pivoting into like just being spirit only, taking the caffeine out, putting it into a can, which all happened really quick on the floor of a regional airport, waiting for a delayed flight. It was, let's get it in the can, drop the caffeine, keep the rooster. People think it looks European and expensive. All right. What's an expensive European country? Monaco. And that's really where it came from.
That's awesome. That's a great story. That's really
great. When you think of Monaco, you just think high end, rich people sitting around watching F1.
Well, we did want it to feel. We did. We talk about how these high energy moments that people drink it, for the bounce per ounce and everything that they're getting out of it. But all the imagery, sort of in the beginning, had much more of a high end look. High end feel. We wanted the badge and the logo on the front to look like the emblem off a sports car, off the hood of a sports car. We wanted the brand to sort of have that premium feel because we were asking people to spend twice as much. You're spending twice as much on this product. You're getting something half the size and for the same price as the other thing. So we wanted people to feel like there was a real value there and real quality in our ingredients and everything.
Very cool. Fun story. Well, the other thing that I have to ask before we wrap is about the Kentucky Coffee brand. What can you tell us about that? It's a small brand. It seems like it's growing double digits. Where is it? What's the proposition?
Yeah, Kentucky Coffee. It's a coffee flavored whiskey. Again, starting with the consumer here, going back to the whole fun and flavor. Coffee is a huge flavor. I love coffee. I have trouble giving up coffee. I'm on and off it. Mark knows this. I'll take breaks. I drink espresso every day. And at the time, I was also drinking a lot of whiskey and bourbon. And in working with our flavorist, I said, look, what if we combine these And we started to think about the idea of sort of flavored shots if we brought something new to sort of the flavored shot arena. And, what if we combine something that combined both coffee, which is very robust, and, whiskey? And how would those two things go together? Let's try that. And when we got the first samples of the product, we were like, holy cow, this tastes amazing. And so it really became, okay, how do we launch something like this? Because we have, no experience and, as on premise and shots. Mm-hmm. And so we waited till, I think, Mark, how long has it been? Like 3 years we've had that thing out?
Yeah, a couple of years. Yep.
Launched it a few years ago, and we've just been keeping it really focused, figuring it out, understanding who's drinking it, how they drink it, when they drink it. And, to your point, it's kind of been growing year over year. And, but at the same time, Monaco is very demanding, and it commands the majority of our focus. So we keep it kind of tight on.
Okay.
Is it kind of nice being at a place now where you have the luxury of doing the slow burn, because you have a hit brand that's paying the bills, and now you can just say, let's do this the right way, instead of being in a regional airport and and ordering up slim cans from Austria or wherever.
You made the right call.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say slow burn, because I think maybe our counterparts would say that we maybe act like the world's on fire sometimes because we're so ambitious and want to do so much. But yeah, to that point, look, Monaco obviously affords us the ability to be strategic and think about, how and where we want to grow, we're patient to do that right. And then, it creates a lot of creative space to work on things like Kentucky coffee. There's a few other 50 ml brands that we've launched, small, incubated, but things that go back to our DNA of fun, flavor, impulse, and candidly often incremental to a beer buy. And it is nice. It's nice that Monaco has created a pretty nice platform and candidly a lot of credibility in that space to think about how do we continue providing value for consumers that then obviously for our route to market partners, everybody benefits along the way.
Right. So will you give it to some of your beer houses too, or do you try to keep that one separate?
Usually most of it goes along together. Like I said, I'd say we had a really great growth journey for the business, but really about 2 years ago, we started to tell our story to the trade in terms of, what our role was within it, how it could be a growth driver for them. And I think we're seeing that we're a nice balance. I think a lot of our beer wholesale partners want to get into the world of spirits, but maybe they want some things that look and feel a bit more like them sometimes. So beer and a shot's a pretty natural combination. Case of beer and a couple 50 mLs, case of beer and a can of Monaco. That's pretty close to how they execute. So we got some anomalies, but we really kind of roll it all together and make it manageable. And we try to grow together with them into that capability.
And we have a lot of patience with them. I mean, I think if you ask them, more the new ones than the ones we left, they'll tell you that, we're patient partners. We're great partners. We work hard with them. And I think we set pretty realistic expectations, sort of together.
Awesome.
Very good. Gentlemen, you guys are visionaries. You're doing it right. I love that you came on BeerNet Radio as one of your first trade coming out parties, your debutantes. Net Radio. Guys,
I feel like I should have a gown or something.
Yeah, you need to perfect your bow, because BeerNet Radio is the podcast where all your dreams come true, and I hope some of your dreams will come true today. And
wow, that's super, super nice of you to say. Thank you very much.
You bet. Listen, we're setting expectations really high, and that's what we do over here. Well, thank you so much for being on BeerNet Radio. Hey, good luck to you guys. Keep it up. Yeah. Keep that burn alive. Keep it in here.
Absolutely. We absolutely will. So look, it's fantastic. We appreciate the time, and cheers to you both.
All right, great.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.